Hello and welcome to Chad Magic. My name's Christian.
And I'm Wally. And today, instead of gameplay, we're bringing you a preview of gameplay to come. With Final Fantasy coming down the line, I'm so excited for some of these really cool new cards, and we've done a very, very spicy deck, haven't we, Christian?
We certainly have. We are aware that some of you might be new to Magic or experienced Magic players, and you want to build a Final Fantasy deck. So what we've done here is we've built one each. This is the first of two videos.
Yep.
And this is meant to be around the €50 mark. Price is correct at time of printing, not including commanders.
Not financial advice.
Yeah, there's the small print. And basically this is to get you sort of going in Magic. If you're new or if you're an experienced player, it might be time to build a deck around maybe one of your favourite characters or a new strategy.
Yeah, and if your favourite character isn't featured in one of these two episodes, let us know, and maybe we'll do another deck tech. But hopefully this is the one for you, exploring some really cool Magic strategies, and one of my favourite, actually. I was surprised that you picked this, Christian, because this is much more of a me commander.
Yeah, so I have picked an Aristocrat strategy. So for those of you who don't know what an Aristocrat strategy is, Wally is you love this strategy, right?
Yes, absolutely.
This involves sacrificing your own creatures for value. Usually you make lots of token creatures and go wide with creatures all over the board and then sack them all for value, either one at a time or all at once.
Yeah, and that can lead to things like doing damage to your opponents. You can draw cards, you can make other creatures when creatures die. I mean, honestly, it's so cool because it's actually quite hard to interact with as well. It's very hard for people to stop, and you're just there being like, yes, my minions, you will die for me. Which is why I love it.
Absolutely. Before we get into the deck tech, thank you very much to our sponsors, Ultra Pro, for sponsoring this video.
Yep.
Go check out the Apex sleeves. They're our favourite sleeves, and also the card protects as well, which is the best way to protect your collection. So thank you, Ultra Pro. You rock.
Yeah, you guys rock our socks off.
So do you want to know what the commander I've picked is?
Well, I already know because I talked about it before, but go on, tell me again.
It's Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier. Now, I'm going to read the card to you. It has two sides to it. It's a legendary creature, human avatar soldier, for 2 of any kind and a black. And it has, whenever Sephiroth enters or attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, draw a card.
Straight on with the game plan.
Yeah. Whenever another creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. If this is the 4th time this ability has resolved this turn, transform Sephiroth.
And I think it's interesting as well that first ability where you sacrifice a creature and draw a card is a May ability.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of creatures with that sort of thing force you to sacrifice something, which means that if you're playing...
If you only played your commander, that wouldn't be good.
It wouldn't be great.
He's also a 3/3. So yeah, if it's the 4th time this ability is resolved, you transform Sephiroth, and Sephiroth on the backside is Sephiroth One-Winged Angel, which is a legendary creature, Angel Nightmare avatar.
Oh dear.
It has flying, it's a 5/5, and it has Supernova. As this creature transforms into Sephiroth One-Winged Angel, you get an emblem with whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So it's an emblem which you can't get rid of. That's going to be there for the rest of the game.
Yeah, you cannot destroy emblems. They're not like creatures or artifacts. They're just there, and you can't interact with them.
Absolutely. And it says whenever Sephiroth attacks, you may sacrifice any number of other creatures. If you do, draw that many cards.
So you're going to be drawing some cards then?
You certainly are. So basically, the overview of the deck, we want to be making 4 creatures kind of die at once, because it doesn't care. It doesn't have to be our own creatures. It can be 4 of anyone's creatures in any turn. And essentially, the drain strategy, we're going to see that a lot in the deck. And once it's flipped, the commander just goes into overdrive with the emblem. You could even end up flipping it more than once. And yeah, essentially, you're going to be draining your opponent for quite a lot of life.
Yeah, so you could end the game very, very quickly, and they're just going to watch themselves melting away. They can't take your emblem away from you. You're making more creatures, killing more creatures. And I had a quick look through the deck list, Christian, and you've got some of my favourite cards in Magic here. Really excited for you to take us through this.
I certainly have. Now, before we get into the super interesting cards, I'm just going to start with the ramp package, because I think it's really important to essentially get going with ramp. And so we've got a couple of...
What is ramp, Christian?
Oh, that's a good question. Ramp is accelerating your mana into the game. So if you're new to the game, use obviously a resource called mana. Please go and see some of our videos. We do a great one with Kadikarus on getting started in Magic. We'll link that below. Ramp essentially allows you to get a mana advantage, which is essentially a resource advantage, so that you can cast bigger spells or more spells later in the game.
And what that tends to mean is usually in Magic you play 1 land per game, so you have access to 1 land per turn, so you have access to 1 more mana each turn. If you ramp, that means you're going to outstrip that rate.
Absolutely. And we do have a couple of ramp pieces that have some synergy.
Okay.
So we've got Bontu's Monument, which gives black creatures cost 1 less, but it also has a drain effect on it as well.
It does, yeah.
So it's a bit of what we'd call redundancy, which we'll come back to in a second. And we have Crowded Crypt as well, which later in the game you can sacrifice it to basically get some more creature tokens. So it essentially makes more fodder for your creatures.
Amazing.
We're also running Jet Medallion, Mind Stone, Wayfarer's Bauble, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Charcoal Diamond, and of course, one of your favourites, Dark Ritual.
Great spell, absolutely cracking spell. And you know what? That means if you draw Dark Ritual in your opening hand and you have a swamp, that is a turn 1 Sephiroth. Mm-hmm. Commander turn 1 is pretty good.
It tends to be very, very good. Yeah, maybe this one wants to sacrifice as it comes in, so I'd maybe, but we'll see.
For the sake of drawing a card, the flex of turn 1 Commander.
Perfect. Now, moving on, the first strategy we've got is to basically have more of the same effect of our commander, that drain effect, which is what we call redundancy. So, in our aristocrats package, there are some familiar favourites that you'll like here. We have Blood Artist, which allows you to ping somebody when something dies. You have Zulaport Cutthroat, which has the same ability as your commander.
Cutthroat pings everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's actually slightly better.
Yeah, so Zulaport Cutthroat has the same ability as a commander. We got Vengeful Blood Witch, which is again very similar, and Bastion of Remembrance, which, as well as having the drain effect, makes you a token when it comes in, so that gives you something to sacrifice when we come to the sacrifice strategy. We've also got Ayara, Thirst of Locthwain, and Venerated Stormsinger. Now, these are some of my favourite cards in the deck because they synergise well with the commander as well as having the ability. So Ayara, Thirst of Locthwain has a sacrifice outlet on her, so you can tap and sack to draw a card, so you can turn your creatures into cards, which is what you want to be doing.
Absolutely.
And Stormsinger creates a token which sacrifices for free.
And the thing about Ayara as well is the effect to drain life and gain life happens when a black creature enters the battlefield.
That's very true. Our next strategy, the thing that we need to sort of have is we need to have some fodder. We need to have some minions, Wally.
Yep, you've got to have the creatures there to sacrifice them.
And I've split these into kind of 3 categories. The first being repeatable death, which is creatures that you can probably allowed to die multiple times, loop. Another one is token creation, so it's like when a creature comes in and maybe makes another creature, so you have more things to sacrifice.
Bodies on one card,
yeah. And then the third one is kind of like creatures when they die will give you some additional value.
Yeah, like it.
Yeah. So first of all, for the repeatable death creatures, we've got Bloodghast, which comes back if you play a land. Yeah. We have Blood-Soaked Champion, which if you're attacked, you can replay it. We have Forsaken Miner, which is if you have committed a crime, which is basically interacting and targeting something to do with your opponent.
Which your deck just naturally does.
Which we will naturally do, yeah. We have 9 Lives Familiar, which I love.
Such a cool card, isn't it? 9 Lives Familiar.
So 9 Lives Familiar actually comes in with 9 counters on it, and every time it dies, you can bring it back on the next end step with a 1 fewer counter.
And you will actually be able to sacrifice it on the end step, as you've noted here, which means that say you'd only got 3, then 9 Lives Familiar comes back, sack 9 Lives Familiar again, commander flips on your end step.
Exactly. So you can still you can get a lot of value out of that one. So I do like the 9 Lives Familiar. We also have a Grave Crawler and a classic here, Reassembling Skeleton. Always seen in like beginner boxes and stuff like that.
That's a great card. Is that 2 and a black? You pay for it to come back to the battlefield?
I think it's 1 in a black actually.
Yeah, something like that. And there's another one from Dominaria United that has basically the same effect, Cultist or something. But yeah.
Well, now you're making me think that I should have put this in, but I didn't see that one. See, this is why we should talk about decks. It gives you a little bit of insight into.
If you're building aristocrats, you should definitely talk to me. Like, Stonewall.
How do you think I'm doing so far?
I think you've got all the classics. To be fair, yeah.
So, moving on to the second sort of fodder creature type, we've got the token creators. So one of my favourite picks here is Marionette Apprentice because it makes a token when it comes in, and it also reduces your opponent's life total as well as it goes. So there's
cool card,
some additional synergy there. Chittering Witch is a really good include as well because it creates tokens equal to the number of opponents you control.
So that's 3. Hopefully.
So that's 3.
Well, hopefully it's less actually.
But if you play Chittering Witch, it comes in potentially with 3 tokens. You have 4 creatures straight away that you can sacrifice there if you have a sacrifice outlet, which we'll come on to later. We've also got Endrick Sar, which can make multiple tokens.
Really cool card.
Yeah.
And actually, that means whenever you cast a creature, you'll get tokens. So
yeah,
it's an extra value for the stuff that you're casting, which may have other value attached to it anyway.
Yeah.
So great redundancy.
Definitely worth including that one. And then Grave Titan, which comes in and makes 2 tokens on ETB. And it's also a 6/6. So
and Grave Titan also does it on attacks. So
there you go.
You're going to just loop these.
You're just going to keep getting things. We also have some things that make tokens when creatures die, when non-token creatures die. That package is Pawn of Ulamog, Sifter of Skulls, and Ogre Slumlord, which is really good because when you sack, you get like a little bit of extra value, another thing that you can sacrifice as well.
And the thing to note about Pawn of Ulamog and Sifter of Skulls is that the creature that comes in with them, it can sacrifice itself to make mana. So it's getting you closer to that 4 potentially. It's going to trigger all of these death drain effect, and also it will give you some resources. And you will generally see in an Aristocrats deck which is trying to have combos that can loop and chain, those cards are very important to it.
Absolutely. See, I'm preaching to the Aristocrats expert here. The other things we've got a Theomancer, which is a classic, makes a snake with Death Touch, which is really, really good because it stops your opponents from attacking you a little bit. And they basically just come back each turn, essentially.
Well, that's what you want to do with a Theomancer. So you have the snake with Death Touch through your opponent's attack step, which makes you less good as an attack. Yeah. Then on their end step, you sacrifice it and you just get it back straight away.
It's really, really good. And then Lord Skitter as well creates a token on each of your turns as well that you can sacrifice too. We also have a great one here, which is Abhorrent Overlord as well. And that can potentially make huge amounts of tokens because that comes in and essentially you get an amount of tokens equal to your devotion to black.
So what does devotion to black mean?
It's a very good question. So your devotion to a colour is represented by basically every number of those pips that appear in the mana cost of the cards that you have.
Correct. Yeah.
So, if you've got your commander out, let's say you've got like 3 other creatures, you might have 5 or 6 black pips, which means that you'll make...
Yeah, and because you're in mono black, you're going to have some devotion.
Exactly.
So some serious devotion.
I quite like that one as well. So that's the sort of the token creators. We also have some cards that sort of do things when they die.
Yep.
So we have Infestation Sage, which basically it's only 1 mana. When it dies, it creates a 1/1 insect, which is really good because you can basically have multiple creatures there. We've got Shambling Ghast, which has an option to either give a creature -1/-1 or make a treasure, so it can help ramp you.
Nice versatile card.
And usually within the first couple of turns of a game, there can be a creature with 1 toughness. It kills some really important things. It kills like ramp creatures. It kills like an Esper Sentinel and things like that.
Kills a Ragavan.
Yeah. The commander staple, and I tried to build Ragavan once, but that's another story. And then we got Greedy Freebooter, which makes a treasure and gives you a scry. So we've just got some creatures that give you a little bit of value when they die.
And you want to see these cards quite early on, really, because a scry on turn 2 or turn 3 is worth a lot more than a scry on turn 7.
Yeah,
or turn 8,
absolutely.
And a treasure is definitely more valuable.
Yeah, treasure's really good because obviously that can accelerate you into some of your bigger turns through the ramp. Yeah, which is what we said. So the next strategy I want to talk about is how we're going to make everyone else sacrifice.
So this is the mean stuff.
This is the mean stuff. So this is how we're going to basically control our opponent's boards by making them sacrifice their own creatures. And we really want to be running creatures that basically, when we play them, everybody sacrifices a creature, including ourselves. In most cases in Commander, that's going to be 4, which will trigger the
in the early game someone might have played a ramp creature or something like that. You're going to really upset someone if you kill their Llanowar elves, but you know what, don't play green. Problem solved.
So with Sephiroth, if 4 creatures die, it'll flip, and also there's also like you're going to gain 4 life and your opponent's going to lose 4 life. So we've got a whole package of creatures that have really similar effects. We've got a Cursed Marauder, we've got Plague Crafter, we've got Fleshbag Marauder, Merciless Executioner, and Demon's Disciple. Some of them allow them to sack like Planeswalkers and things like that, but essentially these all have a redundancy for the same effect, which is enter the battlefield and everybody has to sacrifice a creature.
And that does include you, but you are allowed to sacrifice the creature that you've just played to that effect.
Good point, yeah.
So it's almost like it's like a spell in many ways. Like, don't see it as a creature, I say.
Yeah, absolutely.
But ultimately, it gets you to that 4, and that's all that matters.
And then we also have a spicy version of the same thing, which is Butcher of Malakir.
Yes.
Butcher of Malakir, Wally, I know you like this one.
I do love a Butcher of Malakir.
And this is a way to chain off like multiple sacrifices, because let's say you play Butcher of Malakir and then you sacrifice something, then everyone else will have to sacrifice something to that and also to the Butcher of Malakir.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal, to be fair.
So that's the strategy of making everyone sacrifice, but we need other ways to make it so that we can sacrifice our things, and we call these sacrifice outlets. And our deck needs a few ways to do this. And there's one card in here which I had to push the boundary of the budget to put in because it was so good.
I think I can guess which one it is as well.
Yeah, so some of these are like really classic that we see all the time in Aristocrat strategies. Like we've got Woe Strider, we've got Viscera Seer, Ashnod's Altar. That's the one that I kind of pushed for because that allows you to sacrifice a creature to generate 2 mana.
It's so good.
And that's
it's
just
crazy good.
That's really, really good. We've also got Spawning Pit, which in time, when you sacrifice creatures to it, you're able to get...
Spawning Pit is another really
creature.
Good combo piece. So in conjunction with your the creatures we mentioned before, like Spawn Sire of Ulamog and Pawn of Ulamog, if that's what they're called. You know, the ones that make a...
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. They make something that then sacrifices for mana, and then you can continue to put counters on Spawning Pit. Yeah.
Because I actually set up a really cool combo with Spawning Pit once, so it's a good card.
Yeah. Was that on film?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Oh, well, we'll have
one of our Lord of the Rings episodes. Go check it out.
The Golem one, was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you like Final Fantasy and Lord of the Rings, go check out that episode as well. We also have Yahenni, Undying Partisan,
great card,
and a Carrion Feeder as well. So these are all free sacrifice outlets. The best sacrifice outlets don't cost you anything. They will just have
free.
Sacrifice a creature as an activated ability.
And the reason why Yahenni is quite good as well is you can sacrifice a creature to Yahenni's ability, which is free, and Yahenni gets indestructible until end of turn.
Yeah.
So if somebody wipes the board, then you will be left with at least one creature remaining.
Yeah. People will have to be careful about wiping this board though, because you might get some triggers on death. I've also included one of my favourites, which is like a bit of a card that I have to put in because it's probably one of my favourite Aristocrats cards, which is Priest.
Priest of Forgotten Gods.
Priest of Forgotten Gods, yeah. I always want to say Priest of but it's Priest of Forgotten Gods. You get so much value from sacrificing creatures to this.
It's a really
Essentially,
cool card.
You tap it, you sacrifice another 2 creatures, and you get 2 black mana, you draw a card, and each opponent has to sacrifice a creature. I think you might even gain some life, or they lose life or something as well.
Yeah, they lose 2 life, yeah.
And that card is so good here, because essentially, it's going to trigger the commander, you're going to draw a card, you're going to make mana, so you're actually going to be able to continue on with that turn. I really like this card. I run it in all my Aristocrat decks. Moving on to card draw. All decks want to draw cards, right?
Yeah, you only draw 1 card per turn most of the time, so you want to get ahead of your opponent, get those resources, and you've got all the classics here, Christian, so let's go through it.
Well, I wanted to say just before we get into that, the commander does have draw cards on the commander, especially when it's flipped, because when it attacks you can sacrifice your board basically to draw cards, which will really help you. But I've got some ones in here. So we've got Deadly Dispute, Village Rites, Fanatical Offering, and Corrupted Conviction. They all allow us to draw 2 when we sacrifice a creature. We get some treasures from Deadly Dispute, and Fanatical Offering is maps, but essentially these all do kind of the same thing. They're just trying to card draw us. Deadly Dispute probably being the best one out of them.
I would say Deadly Dispute is the best one because you get the treasure, but the key thing about this as well, they are all instants. So what that means is you can keep this in your hand, hold it up. If someone does something that you don't like, then you can sacrifice a creature and maybe you draw the answer.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've also included, in a similar kind of vein, Plumb the Forbidden, which basically allows you to chain off and sacrifice as many creatures as you want to draw cards. Now, you will lose life for each one,
but you'll net it
you'll net it back if your commander's out. And this deck will naturally gain life anyway.
Yes.
So you will be able to do it.
You can afford to lose a bit of life to draw cards.
Life is a resource. I've also got a couple of creatures as well, Midnight Reaper and Morbid Opportunist. They round off our card draw because they turn your sacrifice creatures and dead creatures into cards.
Yeah, and they're 2 really good includes as well, because you do lose life again, but again, because of your commander, you just net it. So sometimes you're a bit nervous including those cards, but in this deck, it's completely okay.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely want to be in here. I've got a section here now, interaction and other spells. We're running a bit of interaction. Most of the way we're controlling the board is just by making our opponents sacrifice things. But we have Flare of Malice, which I thought was a good one, because it sacrifices when we cast it. And we can cast that for free. We don't have to pay the mana cost. And that makes each opponent sacrifice. So we can potentially play our commander on turn 3 and then leave that up or if we've got a creature out, or we can just do it straight away, and we can potentially flip our commander straight away with Flare of Malice. So I thought it was a good include. I've got Withering Torment and Feed the Swarm. I think now these are auto includes in mono black decks.
Yeah, no, they have to be, because enchantment is so difficult to deal with in mono black, and these are, I think they are the only 2 cards in black that do it.
If you know of any others, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, please do, because I'll go out and buy it.
We also have some more general removal with Infernal Grasp, Go for the Throat, Murder, Hero's Downfall. These are just ways to just basically remove a creature from your opponent's side of things. We also have Bone Shards and Bone Splinters. These only cost 1 mana, so these are much cheaper, but we have to sacrifice a creature to do it. Not so much of a problem in our deck, so it's just quite mana efficient.
And I think one of them, or maybe even both, allow you to discard a card as well. So if you haven't got a creature to sacrifice and you're really desperate to get rid of something, then you've at least got another way to get there.
So let's talk about the mana base.
Oh yeah?
Right, as this is a budget build, I did the classic thing where I sort of spent all my my budget on the cards, but there is a reason.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, well, there is a reason for this, and I'll come to this because we're going to do a section at the end around upgrading the deck.
Yep.
The cards that you want to include that are lands are gonna be much more expensive. Like we'll talk about them in a second.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And so it's going to be hard they're going to take up a lot of the budget if you want to do it. But what we do have here is we have 30 basics, which is the most basics I've ever put in a deck.
But don't forget, it's 1 colour, so you don't need to have loads of non-basics, because a swamp is fine, basically.
Absolutely. We have a Mortuary Mire and a Witch's Cottage. These both allow us to put a creature from our graveyard on the top of our library.
Yeah.
So if obviously we're sacking a lot, we might want to put another creature on the top. And then we have Crypt of Agadim, which can potentially tap for a lot of mana in the late game, as it counts all black creatures in our graveyard, and we're likely to, if you've got more than 3, you net positive mana there.
Yeah, you're probably going to have more than 3 later in the game. And
we also have a Bajuka Bog, which exiles a target player's graveyard, which is really good if we come up against a graveyard strategy or another kind of deck that doesn't care about losing its creatures. So that's in there as well. And that is the commander with the 99 cards.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And what I was going to ask you, Christian, is obviously you've built this really cool €50 deck, and I'm surprised at some of these cards being in there and under budget, actually, so you've done a great job. But if somebody maybe owns a few of these cards already, or they've got a slightly larger budget, maybe you've got friends to borrow cards off, what should they be looking for to make this, really take this to the next level? So
if you want to spend a little bit more money and upgrade the deck, the first thing I'd be looking to do is the utility lands.
Yes.
So we have things like Cabal Coffers, Cabal Stronghold, and Nixthoth, Shrine to Nyx, which potentially ramp you very, very quickly in mono black decks, especially.
And these are very powerful cards.
Yeah, really powerful cards. And if you're getting started in Magic and you want to be like, well, actually, I wouldn't mind owning a card that has a bit of higher value. These are cards that I've retained a strong value for a long time.
Not financial advice.
Yeah, because things can always be reprinted and stuff like that. I've also included Phyrexian Tower and High Market in the upgrade.
Good shouts, Ben.
Yeah, and I should mention, by the way, for the upgrades list, these are all in the considering on the Mox field, so I've got a link to the deck and I've put them in the considering, so you'll be able to check them out as well. Yeah, they've got sacrifice outlets on the Phyrexian Tower and High Market. In terms of non-land upgrades, I really like Warren Soul Trader.
It's a cool card, Warren Soul Trader.
Because that allows you to pay a life to sacrifice a creature to make a treasure. This is a really good card in this deck, and I would say that this is definitely one to have a look at if you see it, because paying 1 life in your deck
doesn't matter.
It's almost like another free sack outlet, but it's making treasure, so you can potentially ramp really quickly with it.
But because it makes a treasure, you can sacrifice that for a black, and that is starting to build some kind of combo engine there.
Yes, yeah.
And I think if you wanted to have some infinite combos in this deck, and there's definitely ways to make that happen, Warren Soul Trader is one of the ways to get there. There's also Pitiless Plunderer, which has a very similar effect.
Well, that was the next one I was going to say. Pitiless Plunderer has whenever a creature dies under your control, you make a treasure. Yeah. So it just allows you to continue the ball rolling. I've got a couple more token making things. So I've got Jadar, Ghoul Caller of Nephalia, which makes a Decayed Zombie if you don't have one each turn.
More sack fodder.
Yeah, so this is really, really good because it's more sacrifice sacrifice fodder. And the thing about a decayed zombie is you can attack with it and it will die that turn.
It sacrifices
It
itself.
sacrifices itself, yeah. And then also, this is my real spicy one. The one that your opponents would really hate is a Dictator Erebos.
So this is that has a similar effect to what's it called?
The Butcher of Malachir.
Butcher of Malachir, yes, that's right.
Yeah, so it's cheaper as well at 5 mana as opposed to 7
Okay.
mana, but the card itself is more expensive. So I've just put that one as like a sort of like, if you want to splash out, play something, but your opponents will not like the Dictator
It's
Erebos.
very mean, especially if they're playing a creature deck.
It has flash too, so if someone plays, something that removes something, you could flash that in and it really, really changes the game.
It's going to upset some opponents, that's for sure.
Another card that would be really good in this deck is the Meat Hook Massacre, but that is definitely not a budget include. That is pushing
Not
the
at
boat out for that one. So, Wally, what do you think of my Aristocrats build?
I love it. I want to play it. Are you going to build this for the show? Because I'll have it off you.
Wally will be sneaking in all those Nick Thorson, all those lands that he loves.
Just a cheeky Yawgmoth, why not? Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I think for €50 or $50, I think you've done a really cool
It's
job.
definitely €50. Should say it won't be $50.
Yeah.
At time of
time of printing doesn't include Commander.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm actually surprised, as I said, at some of these cards being within budget because there's some cool stuff here, and this is like you've got the classics.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing, isn't it?
Brilliant. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this deck tech. There'll be a link to Moxfield where we put our decks on. If you want to discuss the deck or brewing, we have a Discord, so please join us on the Discord.
Links below.
Yeah, if you would like to help support us on Patreon, you're very welcome to. It starts as just £1 a month.
Thank you, Patrons. You guys rock.
Yeah, you're amazing patrons. And Wally, I'm just so excited for Final Fantasy. I can't wait.
Yeah, why isn't it out now? Just hurry up and release it, Wizards. Like, it's just unfair at this point. Teasing us with all these cool cards.
Yeah. And the main thing I want to ask is, please let us know in the comments if there's any cards that I've completely missed, or cards that you think you never thought of putting that in and now you're like, oh, I'm definitely putting that in, because I'd love to get your feedback on this. There are obviously some cards which we didn't include for price restrictions, like which I think we tried to cover in the upgrades. But if there's anything where you're like, actually, you've missed out this card and I think this goes really well, we'd absolutely love to know about it.
Give us your tech.
which we definitely won't steal. But brilliant. We thank you very much for watching. We're Chad Magic. Bye for now.
Bye for now.